Xbox Game Studios' upcoming Civilization competitor called Era History Untold will be pushing the woke agenda. This is no surprise given Xbox has fully embraced this agenda. We have a trophy listing that claims that the game will feature, quote, non-binary historical leaders. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Roll this up over at thatparkplace.com. And you can see here, this trophy listing comes to us via True Trophies. And it says here that the trophy is called Barbenheimer. It is a trophy on Game Pass. And in order to obtain this trophy, you have to, as a female or non-binary leader, bombard cities 100 times over any number of games. There is no such thing as a non-binary individual. There is male and female. That is how God created us. This is clear pushing of woke ideology, pushing of transgender ideology, this idea that men can become women, women can become men, or they can just simply not be men or women, which, again, does not exist whatsoever. It's unclear which historical figure or figures, Oxide Games, which is the developer, is turning into a so-called non-binary individual. In its Gamescom showcase, the company revealed a number of historical figures that will be leaders, including Sappho, Itzcoatl, Wu Zetian, Nefertiti, Elizabeth I, Jeanne d'Arc, Otto von Bismarck, Ya Asantuea, Tokugawa Ieyasu, and Shaka. Other leaders confirmed for the game include Alexander the Great. I'm going to butcher a lot of these names. Amenemhat, Ashoka, Askia, Muhammad I, Benito Juarez, Boudica, Catherine the Great, Cesare Beccaria, Charlemagne, Confucius, Elizabeth I, Eva Peron, Genghis Khan, George Washington, Haile Selassie, Harriet Tubman, Harun al-Rashid, Hildegard von Bingen, Howard Florey, Irene Sarantoko Pechania, Isabella I of Spain, John A. MacDonald, Julius Caesar, Leopold I, Nefertiti, Nicholas Copernicus, Ashtish, Pakakuti, Jufu, Pyrrhus of Epirus, Ram Kamhang, Sejong the Great, Zenobia, Simone Bolivar, and Zhang Chan. I don't know. Sorry about mispronouncing those names. As for how the game approaches history, the company's narrative designer and historian, Grace Rojas, it's her there on the right. She explained this in a video uploaded to the Era History Untold YouTube channel. She says, in my eyes, history is about storytelling. It's a common misconception that history is strictly about the facts and figures, or in the case of a game like ours, the victors and the losers. But history goes way beyond that. To truly understand history, we must be willing to dive deep into the past and acknowledging and examining pieces of the story that can often be overlooked and how that information contributed to the development of the world as we know it. She continues saying another piece which was key to our approach for this game was ensuring that the information we present to the players is as accurate and unbiased as possible. Clearly, they are not doing that, given the fact that they are have a trophy that says that you can play as a quote-unquote non-binary leader, which does not exist because there is no such thing as a non-binary individual or human. I do want to acknowledge, though, that history itself can be biased for a variety of reasons, but we work tirelessly to ensure that we present to the world accurate and respectful representations of the cultures and people we decided to highlight. I do agree with that history can be biased because you're dealing with people, and people are biased because the people who are recording the history obviously can be biased. That's just human nature. To do this, we worked with a mix of primary and secondary sources. We consulted with experts on the subject matter, and we received feedback from folks who have ties to the regions we cover, and so much more. Speaking specifically on the leaders they chose, Rojas was asked if there were any that she was particularly excited to include. She says, during this election process, I was really stoked to see leaders like Benito Juarez, Sappho, and Sejong the Great. She went on to explain that every leader's personality traits are driven by research into their real-world history, and each leader's unique leader ability in the game speaks to one of their great accomplishments as leaders. The initial relationships between leaders are impacted by how much they may or might not have in common with each other, and it also impacts the way that their AI chooses to pursue prestige and ultimately victory. So I'm wondering what happens if you're say Isabella the First. I don't know what her leader ability would be. I would assume it might have something to do with the Inquisition or the Reconquista, something like that. And you run into this so-called non-binary leader. I wonder if Isabel the First is already extremely antagonistic towards the character. That would be interesting to see if that is indeed the case. Maybe you get a bonus as Isabella the First when you you go after a leader like that. That would be interesting. Maybe the non-binary leaders get like negative penalties when it comes to diplomacy because people just don't take them seriously. Wouldn't that be funny? I doubt it. I doubt it. Later in the video, Rojas declared, ultimately, we're trying to render a living world with authentic historicity, which includes little moments of levity, but also really fine details discovered during the research of the game. So I do not recommend this game. It's unfortunate because it actually looks quite interesting. They do have a wide variety of leaders. I will say they have a lot of female leaders, which I think is kind of raises a little bit of a red flag. But I guess that's kind of how they wanted to approach that. Obviously, there are lots of female leaders. They have a lot of good ones on here. Catherine the Great, Isabel the First, Joan of Arc. Like those are obviously historical figures that made massive impacts on their people, on their nations, and on their country. But I mean, Harriet Tubman, really, I don't know if that's a person I would have included in this game. It seems a little obscure of a character to include as a world leader, especially someone from the United States when you have so many others. Obviously, they included George Washington, but I mean, maybe you could have looked at maybe someone like Patton. Maybe you could have looked at Ike. There are other people that they could have included on there, but they decided to choose Harriet Tubman. That to me screams agenda happening there. But that's what it is here. This is what Xbox does. We know this. They push all of this stuff. They doubled down on this, pretty much month by month. We see this, despite them laying off people as people are not buying their games. So this is what they're doing. This is what Xbox is doing. This is their Civilization competitor, and it has fully embraced the woke agenda. But again, not surprising because this is what Xbox and Microsoft do. Remember, we have this Xbox head of gaming here for everyone in sustainability, Katie Jo Wright. She confirmed the company was committing financial suicide, saying if you don't intentionally include, you will unintentionally exclude. And one has to surmise that that is indeed the case, what they are doing here with this game. That's why they have the quote unquote non-binary leaders. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. What do you make of this Civilization competitor era, history untold, including so-called non-binary leaders in the game? Let me know in the comments. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.